So I absolutely love this puzzle. So this puzzle was actually from the 2023 World Jigsaw Puzzle Championships Teams Finals. It was a little bit controversial on some of the folks there. I absolutely love it. I love the style. I love the image. I love how easy it is to actually pull chunks and build them. It worked great for teams because there were lots of distinct people. So it was really easy to say, oh, I'll take the person with the fuzzy sweater, I'll take the person in pink, pull it, build it, and then attach it. So I'm working here on a table that's a little bit small for 1,000 pieces, especially for 1,000 piece that's it's almost a collage where you want to really spread the pieces, see the chunks, and pull them. And so that is slowing me down a little bit on this puzzle. This ended up taking a little over 4 hours. Partially, I'm more casually puzzling. So what I'm doing here is normally what I like to do on 1,000 pieces is actually pull the border and build it, just because it helps me get a sense of the proportions, and then I can build chunks and put them inside the border. Especially true when I'm casually puzzling. In this puzzle, I got really excited because I started spotting chunks right away. And so I started pulling oh, I know that this is the person with the orange shirt or the red shirt. You can see the orange shirt on the bottom right is coming together. And so I started pulling those chunks and just building them right away. I'm not usually a huge fan of illustrated puzzles, but I love the illustration style on this one too. Really, this is one of my all-time favorite puzzles, which is a high bar. I have a lot of puzzles in my house. But both because good memories from Worlds in 2023, as well as just being really fun to rerun. I find this one's also really great to have as a casual puzzle, because you can feel accomplished after puzzling for 2 or 3 minutes. You can say, I'm just going to build this person in the corner and build it, and it's done, and it's awesome. As opposed to some of the more complicated puzzles where, I bought, embarrassing story, I bought a 6,000 piece puzzle right before the pandemic, thinking that it was going to be a fun, relaxing thing to do. The problem with 6,000 pieces is there were days where I would spend 20 or 30 minutes working on the puzzle. I had all the sky on this puzzle shape sorted, and I'd fit one piece. That's not very rewarding. Whereas this puzzle, I'm look at this, I've been casually puzzling for a while. I've got some distinct people built. Tactical error, you can actually see how many pieces on the right-hand side are still not flipped. So the blue backs are showing up are the backs of Ravensburger pieces. Obviously, if I was doing this in a competition, and not casually, I would have flipped those pieces. I hate piece flipping, but it's a necessary evil, especially for a puzzle like this. So what I'm trying to do now, actually, in my strategy is I'm trying to start to get more of an overview of the puzzle. So what I'm doing is actually pushing up some of the pieces, trying to do a little bit more of the border. The border on this one is not particularly fast, because there are so many different individual people. It's faster to build the people and then go back and put the border together rather than doing the border first. But by this point in doing the puzzle, the problem I was starting to run into is, I was running out of space on my table, as you can see. I need a bigger table for 1,000 pieces. And there's just all of these random people parts just floating, right? I've got someone in a brown sweater up on the far right. I've got, the stripy sweater down in the bottom left. And it's not necessarily correlated with where they're actually going to go in the final puzzle. And so what I'm going to start doing soon in terms of strategy is doing a little bit more of, let's build the border. Let's start to connect some of these people. Let's maybe not place pieces as fast, but kind of get that done so that it becomes a little bit easier to see where everything actually goes. Yeah, definitely recommend this puzzle for if you're interested in speed puzzling or are speed puzzling and you want to practice with pairs or teams. I loved doing this one pairs and teams because it fit really well to having one person sort and pass. It fit really well to people who liked to sort of pull and assemble on their own. It also worked well for that because there were just so many individual chunks that I could see. Um, Huge fan of this puzzle. What's also interesting to call out is that my feelings on this puzzle were shared by basically everyone at competition. So every single team in finals chose to do this puzzle, most of them first. And so when you're actually in competition at Worlds, for the teams races, you get puzzles and you pick which one you're going to do, and you pick the order in which you do them. And so obviously you try to do the easiest one first because you get the most pieces placed. And so if you don't finish the second puzzle, you get more total piece credit, right? If if one puzzle takes half the time of the other, you definitely want to get one done and then move on to the tougher one. There's a little bit of nuance to that with things like lighting and blah, blah, blah. But generally the best strategy is to do the easiest one first. So interestingly, or not interestingly, unsurprisingly, this was the puzzle that the vast majority of teams chose to do first. And so you're seeing now that I am still casually puzzling, but I'm starting to try to push that border together and to kind of see the shapes and try to get it so that it's a little bit easier to see. I can tell that I'm casually puzzling because my left hand is not in the frame. So when I'm working quickly, I hold pieces in my left hand generally, or I hold the puzzle in my left hand and I place with my right. When I'm casually puzzling, I'll lean my head on my hand. I'll use my left hand to drink my coffee, to pet my cat, to chase my cat off the puzzle table, all of those things. And so you can see I'm speeding up a little bit here as things start to get more obvious. Brief interlude for cat. My coffee cup has appeared again. We are starting to see some people. I left the faces usually till last in this puzzle, and I tried to do the sweaters or the clothes first because all the clothes were about the same size, so it's the same number of pieces, and generally tended to have patterns that I could really easily pick out, versus the faces were a little bit more generic looking and a little bit harder for me to see. So here we go, starting to put some more things in place. One of the challenges I'm having with this puzzle is you can see my head is constantly in the frame. I'm constantly having to reach across the table to pull pieces. One of the things that I try to do in competition is keep the pieces closer so I'm not spending as much time reaching. I'm also generally seated when I'm casually puzzling and practicing at home, whereas I stand in competition. Standing makes it easier to reach all the pieces, but it also makes your back hurt. And so rather than being what a relaxing activity, my back is going to feel awful, I usually sit when I'm casually puzzling. So you're starting to see here a lot of the puzzles finally coming together. There are real patterns and blocks emerging. So, kind of in much better shape, much closer to done, just much easier to see too. And so at this point, I didn't shape sort this puzzle at all. And part of that is because the patterns were really easy for me to see and they're really obvious. And so even at this point, I'm still just kind of grabbing pieces, and I might say I want all the pieces with a bluish color, and I do all the bluish colors. And then I'd say I want all the pieces with a greenish color, and do all of those. And so I'm trying to stick to that strategy here. I'm not shape sorting. I do know actually a lot of people who by this point would have shape sorted, including in teams where sometimes you shape sort onto a tray and then you can pass the tray around. I'm also doing this for fun, this particular puzzle, and so why not do it the fun way, which is not shape sorting. So you can see it's the faces really that are still not finished, and there are a lot of little gaps where people's faces are missing. One of the confusing things here is because I don't have a lot of space, I'm keeping pieces on top of the puzzle, which makes it harder to see how much is finished and also raises the odds, well, cat. There's also a cat on the puzzle, which is a bigger problem. But it raises the odds that you miss a piece at the end and have to look for a second. So here we are, sort of racing into the end. And just a few pieces left. And there we go. Look at that. Great puzzle.